Was this magic vampire male romance book worth the bite marks? Or should I have let the sun burn it to a crisp? Hello everyone, I'm Rainbow Hearts Villain Thoughts, a simple man who enjoys books. I really love gay romance books as well as backstories slash retellings of the villains that we love to hate. Now, before we get started with this review, I want to point out you're perfectly okay to agree or disagree with me in the comments below on my thoughts and opinions on this book. Just please keep it respectful and spoiler free for those who have not read it yet. Also, I encourage everyone to do added research for this book, meaning more than just watch this review, as I may miss something or may not be able to go into detail with this review due to YouTube guidelines and or the fact this is a spoiler-free review. Today I'll be giving a spoiler-free review of the gay adult romance book Lord of Eternal Night, written by author Ben Alderson. This book is a heated romance between a vampire and a male witch. And is a horror supernatural romance novel. Though more supernatural than horror, I suppose. Horror is definitely in there, and it's definitely going to get you. And for some reason, I didn't know this was a thing, but it's based or inspired by the classic tale of Beauty and the Beast, but a gay love story with vampires and witches, apparently. The book itself focuses on a male witch named Jack, who's trained his entire life to unalive the imposing monster that lives above his town. However, when he is called upon to become the next claim for the monster, can he really unalive the beast? Or will he fall to his feelings and become the creature's next fallen claim? So, content warning. First and foremost, before getting into the book, I want to give the content warning and the heat warning for this book. So, let's do heat warning or heat level first. The heat level, I would say, is a 3 out of 5 because there is heat, and it is in detail. However, it's not the main driving point of the book, so it's not 4 or 5. Um, Maybe a 3.5, but there is heat there. It's in detail. And I think there's like 2 or 3 times it actually happens, but it's the plot is not focused on that, so it's only a 3. Now for content warning. This book contains heated interaction between two adults, death, mention of death, insinuation of torture, magic, curses, and drinking of blood, as well as horror aspects that might not be for everyone. Now, if any of those are unsettling to you, or you're just simply not into heated romance books, I do have other books I've reviewed that are closed door, meaning little to no heat involved. And if there is heat involved, it's closed door, which actually I messed that one up there. Closed door means it happens off page, meaning fade to black. You skip the whole adult theme there. And that's more your cup of tea, then please consider checking out my young adults playlist, where I've reviewed gay young adult romance books. But if you're okay with the heat, then stick around because this book is a real bloodsucker. Now, first and foremost, within the review, let's start with the writing style. And with that, let's begin with the tone of this book. So, when I first read this book, I thought the tone was kind of arrogant, cold, and dark at first because Jack is really self sure of himself. He's full of himself. He thinks he's this amazing witch who's going to get the job done. no ifs, ands, or buts. And, you know, it was very interesting to me because at first I kind of felt like putting the book down because I hate full of themselves people and I hate characters that are like that. So this kind of made me not like Jack at first. Um and it's not just Jack, but the creature is also very full of himself. And it's kind of like, why can't you just accept you have faults? um, though, as the book goes on, it goes from arrogant and almost hateful because they kind of hate each other at first. It morphs into romance and genuine care. And honestly, I love that change. Now, some books can start out with the romance at the beginning. However, Lord of Eternal Night does not do that, and I like that because it actually added more oomph to the romance part, and it felt more earned for these two, even though it was not as earned as I would have preferred it to be. It was still a pretty good, pretty interesting thing, and I really enjoyed that. Um, so yeah, it felt like a journey, honestly, and instead of being at point blank. So, I'm not really fond of point blank at the very beginning romance. I would much rather see it build up, and I think that's what most romance books do anyway, is build up to it. Uh, so, but the one thing I'll say about this tone that doesn't work well for me, at least, is the dialect. Now, this book actually is taking place back during the time of no electricity, of candlelight, and stuff like that. But the dialect doesn't really match that. It kind of feels almost modern with dialect. So I was a little confused on that, but it happens. Um, there's no slang in this book, mind you, but it just kinda is missing some older language that I would have preferred in this book instead of it sounding so modern. Now, the setting of this book is perfect. So while the language may seem modern, the setting itself is not, as I said. It's like they're in a village, there's an old creepy castle above them, no electricity, no video games, no electronics. Um, it's very cool to read books like that, especially in this situation and it's involving a vampire. I feel like too many people may try to kind of modernize stuff like that, and we've seen what modernization of vampires looks like, whether you like it or not. But not to worry, if that's not your thing, of course. The monster doesn't sparkle in the sun. If it is your thing, sorry, wrong book. um, but yeah, so I love the setting. It feels very gothic, which is perfect for a horror slash supernatural slash romance book. From the town to the castle, it's just stunning and I love it. The book definitely is a twisted version of Beauty and the Beast, but like I said before, with vampires. I remember seeing the castle through the words, and it was quite interesting because the castle is kind of shrouded in darkness and everything, and there's mist on the grounds, and it's creepy, it's eerie. I love it. I do wish there had been a bit more detail in this book when it came to the atmosphere and the surrounding area, but it was still good. Now I have to say, I loved reading this book. My heart was absolutely pounding near the end of the book, near the end of it. Like goodness gracious, I couldn't believe the shocking end that made my heart stop. I mean, I was not expecting that. I think this book made me feel the weight of the two characters' destinies. Both Jack and the creature. know how things must go. They know how things have to end between them. Either Jack kills the creature or the creature kills Jack and is freed. Um, but either way, one of them has to die. And they know that even if they don't want to admit it, they want things to be so different, yet they know they can't be. The emotional strain I felt while reading this book was so great, I thought I was going to burst from sadness and hope simultaneously. Honestly, this book, the emotional depth of it was quite interesting to see these two form a bond, and the whole time Jack's like, I know what I have to do, and I don't want to do it. To the point where Jack is feelings change more and more, but still at the end he knows how this has to end, and so does the creature. Um, so like, it was really a hit to the heart, honestly, with that. And I'm not gonna say how it ends, but they both know how it has to end, or do they? Question mark. Just hint, hint, wink, wink. No more. Now, there are heated parts to this book, and oh boy. Well, the book is definitely enemies to lovers, but more like enemies and enemy and monster to lovers. The chemistry is definitely there, and it's stunning. Both men feel as if they were meant to be together in every way. Now, there is detail in the heat, so if it's not your thing again, you might want to skip this book because you do have to read the heated parts to understand the rest of the book. Just saying. All right, with that being done, we're out of the writing style, and now let's go to pacing. The pacing for Lord of Eternal Night was pretty good, I think. It was pretty steady, except for the end. Um, near the end, all heck broke loose, and it really speeds up. I will say, pace wise, there were at the beginning, I was kind of hoping for something to happen. I was kind of hoping for a bit more information, a bit more of something, anything at the very beginning of this book because I had just finished the last review I did of his book, and I was really hoping for a heart clutching book that would just grab my heart off the floor and shove it back in my chest. And at first, this Lord of Eternal Night didn't really do that. But as time went on, I kind of regretted feeling like that, at least, because this book is definitely worthwhile. And I mean, the pacing is better as it goes on. It doesn't really change, but the details and everything in it do. Though, admittedly, one pacing problem I did find was the book was contained to so many night, like a week at best, I think, or something like that. And I was a little disappointed in that, but it's justifiable with the plot of the book. So, but the end pacing though, two different types of pacing in this book is like you first start on a slow walk, but at a decent or average speed. Not necessarily slow, but a normal speed. Everything is going fine. It's sunny outside. The birds are chirping. You know, the the grass is green or the sand is sandy. I don't know where you walk at. I'm not going to judge. But it's like that, and then suddenly out of nowhere, it starts to thunder and lightning. Clouds fill the sky, rain starts falling down, and suddenly you're in a mad dash to get to shelter. That is how it felt with the end of the book. It got really fast, really intense out of nowhere, which I'll talk about later in the review, but it was interesting to say the least. Um, so yeah, that was very interesting, most definitely. Now, whether or not this book is character or plot heavy, I personally think it leans more to plot than character. Um, but the characters still make a difference. And again, if you disagree, that's fine. You can let me know in the comments below. I always kind of feel like I get this part wrong with the reviews, but I'm trying. So the plot is the main driving force in this book. And it feels like the characters are at the mercy of the events. Like, they know what has to happen. They know they can't stop it. They're literally at the mercy of their fate, which is the plot of the book. So I really feel like the plot rules this book, and the characters are there, but they don't really get much of a say so until certain parts of the book. Um, but for the most part, they're kind of just dangling there, waiting for their strings to be pulled by the plot. That being said, though, the characters were strong. They were very there. Um, but all in all, I feel like the plot went out with control. Now let's pull out our scalpels and dissect these characters. That's right, y'all. It's time for character analysis. So the first character our main character I want to analyze here is Jack. Now that's Jack spelled as J-A-K, Jack, not J-C-K, but J-A-K. I've never seen this name spelled like this before. Um, I thought it was really neat, and I'm not sure if it's the setting or like the time period, or if it's the culture or area this book takes place, but I really liked the spelling of that name like that. Um, Now Jack is a very interesting character to me. He's driven by a longing to be the best, to prove his mother that he's capable of completing the task at hand. However, deep down, he's just a broken boy trying to fix himself by relying on his own wit and strength, not realizing he's being manipulated by his mother. So, Jack's mother is a horrible person. I'm just going to say it. She's a horrible, horrible person with no magic. His whole coven has no magic. I don't want to reveal why. You find out in like the first chapter or two why his coven has no magic. Um, or you know that they have no magic. It's later on in the book you kind of find out why they have no magic. But of course Jack was led to believe something different. um, but his mother is very manipulative, very controlling of him, to the point where Jack did not have a normal life. And as a result, I hate his mother. She is a horrible character. Um, but yeah, Jack is this charismatic kind of I know what I'm doing to stay out of my way kind of character who is driven by this urge to prove himself to his mother and his coven, who have always kind of looked down on him and seen him as nothing but a tool and a pawn. But in actuality, he's falling into their hands with what they want him to do. As for does Jack change in this book? He definitely does change, but it comes as a surprise to him. He never saw it coming, but he finds out the task is given to be given um to complete becomes really complicated as time goes on, and Jack becomes less self-assured and more about himself and his own feelings and less about the coven and what they want and need, especially as some details are revealed to Jack that weren't previously given to him by his mother. Um so He starts off as this full of himself witch with walls so high no one can climb over them. But when have walls ever stopped a vampire? Um, Jack definitely is changed by the creature who has a name we find out very early in the book is Marius. Marius. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's a weird name. It's no offense to anybody who has this name. Marius. And he is the next character we're talking about, main character. He is a vampire cursed by Jack's ancestor years ago. He's very brooding, very mysterious, very kind of flirtatious. He's used to getting his way, but he's also very sentimental, as we find out. And he doesn't take joy in killing his claims. He doesn't take joy in being a vampire or immortal. In fact, we're told by another character that Marius just wants to die and end this cycle once and for all. And he can't help himself because when the red moon rises, he loses all control and goes after his claim. I don't think that's a spoiler because that's just one little small detail, and it doesn't sound like a small detail, but trust me, in the overall sense, that is nothing compared to the action and everything else. So, sorry, my cat doesn't with this thing. So Marius is a man who definitely has had his heart carved out of his chest, even though he doesn't have a heart anymore. And he was punished out of spite. I won't get into detail there, but it's there. But Jack might be the only one capable of fixing him. He might be the only one capable of making Marius see that love is possible again. But the vampire himself does not trust easy and is hard to read at times. He kind of throws Jack for a loop with how he acts and behaves. And he doesn't want to trust Jack. He's very doubtful of him, and there's a reason for that. I can't get into that reason without being a spoiler, but yeah. um that is Marius to a T. Uh so poor Marius is driven by his want to either be free and act on revenge on the descendants of the witch that cursed him, or to die so he can finally be free of his torment. Now he hates this witch and her descendants who put this curse on him, and he wants to make them pay. But he can't because he's trapped in his castle. So, um, he thinks there's nothing worth living for anymore in his life until Jack comes walking in. Suddenly, he is driven by his urge to both love and protect Jack, even if he needs protecting from Marius himself. Now, Marius changes from the cold, uncaring vampire who only seeks death to a caring man who loves Jack and wants him all to himself. He starts to see hope and for once has something to live for in Jack. But remember, Jack's sent there to kill him, so that might muddle things a bit. Now that we've analyzed the characters, let's get into the strengths and weaknesses of this book. As I said at the beginning of this review, this is an absolutely stunning, wonderful book in the sense that it's eerie and creepy. It's like stepping into an old black and white horror movie. I can tell the author had a clear vision for the setting. I couldn't even imagine this book having the same impact with a modern setting. Honestly, if this book took place in modern times, like a certain vampire series I won't mention, um, honestly though, no hate meant towards that. I know that book series is very popular, just wasn't my thing. Um, but yeah, Lord of Eternal Night does such a fantastic job with what it does, with the setting being so old and creepy. I just wish there had been more detail added to the scenery, to the atmosphere, to the look of the characters and the look of the castle. Maybe the feel of the village. The village isn't really a main part of the book, but it would have been cool still yet to have seen the village kind of get flushed out more, the castle flushed out more. But it doesn't like make the book unreadable for the record. Now the fact this is inspired from a classic tale like Beauty and the Beast and turning it into a horror book was genius. I love how this book was inspired by it and how the author made the story his own. He really did. He didn't make him a werewolf, which would have been very Beauty and the Beast coded. Him being a vampire and the Belle like character being a witch was pretty good. I enjoyed that and thought was really smart. And the last strength I'll talk about is a double-edged sword, which I spoke about earlier, which is the action in the book near the end. The action in this book is really well done. The hair on the back of my neck was standing up the whole time. It was so good. I was wondering, was this going to happen? What was going to happen, and whether Jax could accomplish what he wanted, or if he'd fail in the end. Um, Honestly, that action part was so good. I didn't think I'd ever read a romance book with action in it that wasn't heat related. But golly, was that good. I really enjoyed the action, the fight scene. It was well written. Excuse me, it was well written. It was very well done. And I think the author Ben did amazing, fantastic. But with that, there of course comes the double edge to this, which is it felt out of place almost. There was no prior action to this book. I mean, there was like slightly little bit at the near the beginning, but beyond that, it kind of waned. And it did kind of, I guess, hint at our action-based ending. But to me, it just felt kind of foreign, kind of weird, kind of out there. In the sense that I wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't necessarily thrilled, by it either. Which was a disappointment, in my opinion. But I think all in all, it was a really good action sequence. I just really wish it had been more hinted at throughout the book and less of a kind of feel like a last minute situation. Um Another thing I wish we had seen more of in this book was the magic aspect. Jack is a witch, but the only magic we really see out of him is him controlling elements, not actually casting charms or spells or curses or chants or anything else like that. And it is explained in the book. Mr. Alderson does explain in the book why Jack doesn't use any other kind of magic other than calling on the elements. But it was still a bit of a letdown, and I wish there had been more interaction with magic and just stuff like that. I wish there had been a better system and overall better explanation, if that makes sense. Um, Another thing I didn't really care for was something that kind of confused me. And I do ask if you understand this part, please comment down below and explain it to me because I was really confused. So in the book, Jack uses a scrying bowl to contact his coven, but it kind of makes no sense to me because only Jack has magic, so how can his coven receive his calls? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me how they're able to also use the scrying ball. They can't call him, they can answer his calls. And it was kind of weird to me. Like, I don't know how that works exactly. So if any of you do, please let me know down below. um, but my final thoughts on this book. All around, I think it was an amazing book. It had passion, it had romance, and it had an astonishing end. The ending I still cannot get over. It really caught me off guard, but I loved it for that reason. The characters were really drawn out, and I loved the setting and plot. The only thing I'd say is now I'm craving a backstory for Morius, one where we get to see how he became the monster and his early life as the monster. I would also really love a sequel. Now, apparently, at one point, Ben Alderson was making a sort of sequel to this book at the end, that looked like a holiday special kind of book. But it's not available on Amazon, so I don't know if this is a special book that is digital only, and you have to like go to his website and buy it or subscribe to his newsletter. I don't know because there's only one mention of this on his Instagram. Um, and that's it. There was no other mentions of this sequel, so I don't even know if it's something that he actually went through or if he decided to abandon it. I don't know, but I would love a sequel, sir, please. um this is definitely one of my favorite books I've read this month, which was last month in February. And it makes me want to check out Mr. Alderson's other books to see if they are just as good, if not even better. But this is part of a 3 or 4 book series that I don't think they're connected, but it has the same setting, which is not setting but theme, which is retelling of classic fairy tales, but different. So there's that. So I like to see that. Now, of course, it's time for my rating of this book, where I decide if it got a 1 rainbow heart to 5 rainbow hearts. 1 being I didn't like this book at all, and 5 being it was the best ever. I love this book, and as such, I'm going to give it 4.5 or 4.5 rainbow hearts. It was a fantastic read after all. It's just, the certain aspects of it I wish were more well developed, more well talked into, shown off more, better. It because of that I can't give it a 5 out of 5, but I can give it a 4.5 out of 5. Would I recommend this book? Definitely. Um, if you're okay with heated scenes and detail, and are looking for a horror and classic tale inspired by gay romance, then I'd say you're going to love Lord of Eternal Nights. I for one enjoyed it. I do want to point out again though that this is an adult only book. I don't think I actually said that, but this is an adult only book. Meaning if you're underage, aka under 18, I would not recommend this book for you. Also, if you're more of the fluffy and wholesome type of reader, this book might be too much for you, so you might want to skip it. No hate or side eye meant there. I understand we all have our own preference, and this book might not be yours. So, but if you're looking for heat, romance, um, darker themes with magic and vampire, then definitely feel free to check this book out. It's amazing. Alright, thank you for watching. This is going to be it for this review of Lord of Eternal Night by Ben Alderson. I absolutely love this book, and I hope you will too. Now make sure to let me know in the comments down below if this was a hit or if this was a miss for you, and whether or not you intend to read this book or let it pass you in the night. Also, let me know if you prefer this setup for book reviews or not, and if you have any gay romance, adult or young adult, or even villain backstory slash retelling books you think I might enjoy and should review for the channel. Let me know down below in the comments section, giving me the name and author of the book, as sometimes the name alone is not enough. But give me the name and author of the book and let me know if it's a young adult, an adult, excuse me, a gay romance, or a villain backstory slash retelling. So, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel. And if you set the notifications to all, you'll be alerted when I post new reviews. Also, finally, if you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button. It helps the channel and encourages me to make more videos. Until next time, stay safe out there and don't stop reading, my fellow book readers. Bye!